Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from the Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 83, State of Origin special. I'm your host, Luka Price, and joining me today is three new but very, very experienced experts in the game of rugby league. They are joining the show for the first time today. Jamie, Jack, and Charlie, how are you guys going?
Good, thanks, Luka. How are you?
Listen, I'm going great, guys. It's the first episode that Priceless Takes has ever done covering Australian sport. I'm excited. I've had a lot of comments, a lot of people talking to me about State of Origin. I'm really keen to get your thoughts, see where this episode goes. That's where we're going to start. So today, guys, what we're going to cover, we're going to jump straight into Game 3. We're going to get predictions. You know, Slater's made some changes. We're going to go through everything there is to know in that game. Then we're going to go through some key matchups that we think will occur in the game, followed by the official predictions. And then to end, we're going to go through a bit of fun. We're going to do some betting segments, and we are going to go through everyone's picks for the game. Before we get into it, guys, there is something I do want to clear the air on. For those of you that don't know, Jack and Charlie here, they are brothers. But as you can probably see, they're wearing two different colours. And for those of you that don't know, it's New South Wales and Queensland. New South Wales is the Blues, and Queensland are the Maroons. So, Jack and Charlie, before we start, can you guys sort of just give a bit of backstory as to why you guys are wearing different colours, considering you are brothers and most people would think you would support the same team?
Well, look, I'd love to start. I would just like to say, State of Origin. You go for the team where your origin is. You know, me and Jack are born in Northern Sydney. Um, and yeah, I think that's pretty stock standard. You know, you go for where you're born. Jack's got a pretty weak explanation to why he goes for Queensland, but yeah, I'll let you take it away, General.
Well, Charlie, I'm glad you brought that up, mate, because as we've gone through many times growing up, I've come across the State of Origin eligibility criteria, and a few things do come up. The state you were born in is one of those criteria, but the other criteria is that you've got to tick off where you play your junior football and your representative football, right? And so where you've grown up from the age of up until you're about 13 is kind of where the cutoff is before you can no longer represent a state. And so you've got to, the more boxes you tick for which state you kind of represent is the one you are allowed to play for. We've seen many players like Greg Inglis, born down in New South Wales, just on the border there, Sam Saturday, born in Sydney. Plenty of players have been born down in New South Wales, mate, and I'm ticking the criteria of playing my representative football in Queensland, growing up in Queensland, going to school in Queensland, and being born in Sydney and not lived there a second of my life. So if we both,
All right.
I'm pretty certain we've done the same things in our life, you'd be putting on a Queensland jumper, mate. So I wouldn't call myself a traitor too quickly.
Well, I don't want to take up too much time on this, but we did grow up overseas, and you were going for Queensland prior to your first rugby league game in Queensland. So, a bit of contradiction there, but I'll let it slide. I'm true blue. Um, and if I was a Queenslander, I wouldn't be welcoming Jack with open arms by any means. So we'll leave it there. We see our true colours.
Well, that's where we're heading, guys, because Game 3 is going to be on Wednesday night. New South Wales, $1.43 favourites heading into the game, which is pretty steep compared to Queensland's $2.83 price as underdogs, with the line favouring New South Wales by 7.5 points. Now, the Blues, all-time record 35-27 in Sydney, which you would think, honestly, maybe could be a bit better considering it is their home ground. But they have won 4 out of the past 6 State of Origin games in Sydney, but only 3 out of 8 deciders all-time. The last time they won a Sydney decider was in 2019. They won 26-20. Queensland all-time lead the deciding games 15-6. But New South Wales have won the most recent ones. They won, like I said, in 2019. They also won last year in Suncorp 14-4. Now, guys, look, a lot of stories about this game, but I really want to get into the selections here. because I think there's a lot to be said in the Queensland team and in the New South Wales team in the fact that they haven't really changed their team at all. So the Queensland ins for this game, guys, we see the return of the big papa himself. Josh Papali comes into the lineup for Queensland. They're also debuting Shibasaki from the Broncos, as well as Jermaine Hopgood coming in, Josh Kerr and Reece Walsh coming in as the 18th man, which sees the Hammer go into fullback. Kalen Ponga's an out for Queensland, as is Ezra Mam, and as is Fotuikaya. I don't know how you say his name, my bad for butchering. New South Wales, no changes to the starters or the interchange. Now, Papali, like I just said, guys, first game since 2022. That sees Hamiso go to fullback, Val Holmes back out to the wing, and Shibasaki into the centres. Now, Jamie, I want to get your thoughts on Slater's selections here. Do you think he's made the right call bringing these players in for Game 3? And what do you make of New South Wales not changing their team at all?
Look, I love what Slater's done with the team. I think that Ponga really showed where he was lacking in our last game. I think defensively in that 20-minute period where New South Wales went on a bit of a run, it became abundantly clear that Ponga's defensive capabilities weren't there. I think bringing in Reece as the 18th man, I mean, whether he will or won't see game time, I think he did pretty well in the last few series. I think Shibasaki is considered kind of as a bit of an underdog, one of the best centers in the game right now. He's playing absolutely brilliantly for the Broncos. So if he can just keep that consistency, he'll play really well. I think Papali'i being back is big because New South Wales have been kind of storming through our lines. They've been quick, and Queensland's been pretty slow off the line. So I'm hoping that a bit of mass there and also some experience because we've lost Ches. I feel like a bit of experience going in with the Queenslanders will be helpful. I think that in terms of New South Wales not changing their lineup, look, they played pretty well in game one. I think that they showed what they were capable of in game 2 at the end. I think that sticking with the same lineup is probably the best move for them. I really couldn't actually see any kind of changes that I'd make. I mean, they do have a pretty stacked team. So, I think that if they can play at the best of their ability, then that team is spot on and there's no need to change. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I agree, Jamie. In terms of Queensland's lineup, I really like Munster at captain and at 6. As you mentioned earlier, Jamie's dad has passed away, so he's going to be super emotional and he's going to be wanting to do his old man proud. Guys like Cameron Smith have come out and said that they've seen a big change in Cameron Munster's persona and the way he conducts himself on the field. We saw him shave his mo off. He's become a real professional. All of a sudden, he's stretching before training, and apparently he just looked like an absolute animal running out of the tunnel. And around the camp, he's just been a great leader, leading by example is his style. He'll be hard, and I think he's got a lot of respect around the group. So big game from him. I've got him as my Wally Lewis medal winner. I think he's going to be if Queensland again win some Wednesday. He's also got a 10-4 record, and he's never lost a decider for Queensland. So there's a lot of stats there behind Cameron Munster, and big time player. I think he's in for a big one. In terms of Big Papa, it's very inspiring select. Like Billy kind of had the option to call him the past 3 years and say, mate, you want to run? And I think he's probably done it just for the right time. We saw Papa play his 300th NRL game the other day for Canberra. And, arguably the best prop in the NRL at the minute. So he's going to be a big one. He's going to give the boys a lot of confidence in the middle. Like Tino came out the other day and said that he used to run around the backyard pretending he was Josh Papali'i. So imagine playing with your hero out there in a decider, game 3 in Sydney. Everyone's against you. So I think he's going to bring a lot of experience, confidence to the forward pack. I don't think Moe Fodawaker necessarily did anything wrong. He's just probably he just lacked a little bit. I don't know, you just didn't really notice him out there, whereas Papa brings a presence. So he'll be a great inclusion for us, especially with the experiences Damien mentioned when DC is gone. Shibasaki, I didn't like, boys. I didn't like him so much. If Murray Taulungi was there, if he wasn't injured, he got pulled last round just in warm-up, he would be my winger. I put Val back to centre. But I think you need a fit team, mate. And we saw that with Cleary. He just wasn't so fit in game 2, and it really put a hole in New South Wales defence. And I think if we're gonna match up to this New South Wales lineup, we need to be 100% fit. So I think if you got to pick a centre, it's Shibasaki. But mate, we're going for Rob Toy, who played 10 NRL games, and now Shibasaki has played just under 40. So it's a young team, but I reckon we can get the job done. The Queensland jersey does something special to the boys.
I'm quite excited to see Shibasaki play. I'm scared for him. I feel like, this could be a very much make or break game. If he does, all year, he's been, starting to come off that training trial deal. He's really been playing with nothing to lose, and I think that's really impressive. Um, but now got a bit more pressure on him. Obviously, State of Origin jumper playing along his mates that he played development. He's gone and see them play for the Broncos, and he's been left out. Um, but I think something he must have done something good in Japan, getting back to his heritage, his Japanese heritage or something must have been good for him. And Madge has put that incentive in front of him that, if you don't perform, we'll cut you pretty quick. But yeah, I'm excited to see Shibasaki play.
100%. I think the other thing I failed to mention as well was Harry Green. I reckon, mate, he will be key for us. Game 1, obviously, Grant didn't play his best game, probably his worst Origin game he's ever played. Saw Kurt Mann get included in Game 2, and that kind of took a bit of pressure off Harry to be able to come off, back end of the first half and give him a bit of extended stint into the second and bring him on for the last 30. And that's where you kind of see him, really deteriorating that middle of New South Wales. Your big Spencers, your big Payne Halves, who can't go a full game. They can't even go a full half. And so if you've got Laurie Daly keeping them in the last 20 minutes, what I can see is Harry running a wreck around the ruck, and then you'll have guys like Munster and Hammer who have that real speed. I think that's where Queensland are going to kind of dismantle New South Wales a little bit in the last 20. Is where we can just use our fitness. We're not big bodies by any means. You guys are way bigger. But I think if we can last that batting that you guys are going to give us in the first 30 minutes, if we can get through that unscathed, you'll see us run rampant in the last 20. And I think that's clutch. That's what Queensland do. I mean, we're 26 to 17 Origins in favour of us. We've won 9 of the last 10 deciders. And in Sydney, we've won 3 and 2. We're 3 and 2 deciders in Sydney. So we actually have all the stats with us. It's just a matter of kind of getting over what New South Wales have on paper, and then hopefully the Queensland jersey rides us home. We'll see.
Do you reckon those stats even matter, Charlie? If I'm a New South Wales fan, I wouldn't be putting much into, the historical parts of it.
Yeah, well, I could have when Queensland went on that unbelievable run when I was growing up in primary school. I still wore my blue jersey very proud on Wednesdays at school and stuff, but
Reluctantly.
it was very difficult. And obviously my older brother going, oh, 8 in a row, going to be 9 in a row, going to be 10 in a row, you're never going to win again. But I think the beauty with Origin is that, every year it's a different story, it's a different team. So, I think going into camp, Billy might be able to bring in and say, look, we've had this success before, this is what the Queensland jersey can do. But at the end of the day, it's not what previous players have done in previous teams. It's what the current players, and I believe how Munster's going to lead them. Um, I look back at in the 2020 series when the Storm had come off their premiership, um, and the Origin was after the grand final. And Munster had gone on a bit of a bender, and he's come and played. I believe he got man of the match that game. Um, So, with his father passing, I think he's one to not shy away when there's adversity around him and external noise and distractions. Um, like I feel for him. My thoughts go out to him and his family, but I think under adversity, Cam will play best. Will play the best. He'll get man of the match, and will lead Queensland. If Queensland do win, he'll get man of the match. And he'll play very well and lead the team well.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think the Munster's dad passing actually, not only could fire up him, but I think that could have an impact, in the locker room as well, and when you have a coach like Slater
100%.
who knows Munster personally, like they played together, that's like a really key relationship. Like, it's like these types of games, where when you're Queensland and you're a big underdog, you sort of need, in a way, like, obviously, like, you don't need to motivate yourself for this game if you're Queensland, but it's just something extra, that you're playing for. It's something that it's bigger than you. So I'm interested to see how Queensland respond if they come out with a bit of extra ticker and really try tag it to New South Wales. But guys, I want to get into some key player performances here, and we're going to talk about sort of different positions on the field, sort of how important some certain matchups are. The first one I want to talk about, and Charlie, I'll go to you first because I don't really know how you sort of feel about this as a New South Wales supporter who you would rather wearing that number 1 jersey. But Queensland have done a bit of reshuffling to move Hamiso into fullback. He hasn't played there really in Origin, but he does play at fullback for the Dolphins. Obviously, Reece Walsh is on the bench, but they've done a little bit of shuffling around to put him there, bringing Shibasaki in the centres. What do you think about Hammer moving to fullback, and what type of performance are you expecting him to have?
Look, I honestly quite like it. My one issue with Reece Walsh is I feel he's very high risk, high reward. Um, he could break the game open and score the winning try, but he himself takes risks, and they don't always play out. You can see in big games like the 2023 grand final, he took many risks and they didn't come off. Um, and coming to a game three, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to have someone that is high risk, high reward in the team when everyone else in Queensland is very consistent and very solid. Um, I think one of the driving factors um, in having him off, obviously he's coming off that injury. Um, the past couple of weeks, honestly, I don't think he's looked very running very smoothly or playing well for the Bronx, just purely because his knee's not in shape. I think having him as 18th man is a good decision. He doesn't have to play 80 minutes. He can come in if the 18th man comes into the game. He can play half, he can play fullback. He's a ball player, he's a runner. So having him as 18th man, if he gets unlocked, it'll be very good. Um, but yeah, as I said before, I'm excited to see Shibasaki play. Um, and I'll give it to Hammer. He's been the form fullback of the comp this year, and I feel like he's going to make the number 1 jersey his own. Um, and yeah. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what Billy's done. I think it's smart to leave out Walsh.
I agree. I think that Hammer going to fullback, what Queensland need is a bit of speed, and that's what he's got. I think Coates definitely on the wing is where we're going to be looking for some of those, acrobatic tries, some of those catches. I think he's got that covered. I think what we don't need is Hammer playing in the centres where he's actually not going to be able to make much of a difference. I feel like fullback, he's going to get involved. He's going to be quick. He's going to be looking for some of those fast breaks, some of those intercepts. Last game, we got 0 intercepts. I'm excited to see some spontaneity, something a little less forward. And I think that's what he'll bring.
Yeah, 100%, Jamie. I think Hammer's Stone, form fullback of the comp, as you guys said, and brings so much versatility. Like he's known for his speed, but what he's also worked on in the past, 2-3 years, being the flagship fullback of the Dolphins, the first fullback of the team, is his ball playing skills have gone through the roof. Like the guy can pass and he can create, which he couldn't do when he was at the Cowboys. So Wayne Bennett's obviously done a lot of work with him. The staff of the Dolphins have done a lot of work with him, and he's coming into his own as a premier fullback. And mate, I've got no concerns about Hammer fullback. I'm really happy with that decision. I don't want Reece in the team. I'm really happy that he's not in the team. I think one, he's had the worst season of his career so far. He was just rogue in the first couple of rounds, like he was bad. And now that he's kind of coming back into form a little bit, mate, you pick him at 18, which Billy has done, but mate, like the guy can't even move laterally. Like he struggles big time. I watched him in warm up the other day for the Broncos game, and he was limping all over the field. Like he was just, I don't know how he's playing. I honestly don't know how he's playing. So I'm not even sure if I like him at 18, but mate, very unlikely he'll be used. Very unlikely. So. Hammer's number one, and then the rest of the back line kind of speaks for themselves besides Kubasaki, so it'll just be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, look, guys, the next point I have on here, New South Wales kicking, being pretty atrocious. Lomax 2 for 5 last game, as I said in the rundown. Jamie, do you stick with Lomax? Do you go back to Cleary? Do you go some other direction? It's an important game. What do New South Wales do to sort out the kicking? Currently, there isn't even a market for points scored on Sportsbet. So, seems like the bookies don't even know either. And maybe that leads one to believe that they might, take someone out of left field. They've got a fair few capable kickers on the team. But what do you think they do, and how important do you think that is for this game?
I think they stick with Lomax. I think his last game was bad, but if you look at his club performance, I think he's 16 from 16 from the field or something ridiculous. He's not by any means a bad kicker. I just think that game 2 got to him early. I think that when Queensland got up to what they did, he just couldn't focus and couldn't get it through. I think that we discussed that this next game is going to be a lot closer, a lot more intense, a lot better performance. I think that's kind of where he thrives, especially in club. I think if it's that kind of close game, I think his kicking is going to be on. I don't think you need to get Cleary, who potentially will be subpar considering how he's moving with his injury, or possibly I don't know, actually, Latrell. I think that Lomax actually is probably the best kicker. He just had a shocker because of the circumstances. That's my opinion.
I think if it looks like the occasion is getting to Lomax, I don't think we can afford to keep him. Having him start as a goal kicker is showing faith in him, and that's enough. I don't think we need, if he misses 2, I don't think Laurie needs to show him more faith and keep him on for the rest of the game. When you look at our kickers, we got Brighton, Latrell, Cleary, obviously Lomax, but we're not short of any kickers. Crichton possibly the biggest time player in big games in the NRL at the moment.
But that's what
Or
I'm
sorry,
thinking.
in
Why
in
would you
his in
not,
his
mate? Why
past.
would you not put Crichton to kick then? I wonder the same thing.
Well,
And out of
I
all
would
the
I would
players that I'm looking at right now, he's 13th in the NRL right now in total conversions. The only person ahead of him on the team is Cleary. So I don't know why you don't give it to Crichton, considering how he performs in big games. And don't you think if Lomax starts, right, and then you put him off, he has a shocker, don't you think that's going to have a negative effect on New South Wales if they have to make a switch mid-game and they show that lack of faith in him?
I don't know. I think the faith is shown by if we let him kick. Like I One player that I would love to see convert is Latrell. Um, I think he would just own the moment. You know, nothing phases him. He doesn't hear any external noise. Um, Obviously, the Blatchies Blues will be getting around him when he's converting. So possibly the fact that they're in New South Wales could benefit Lomax and keep him on for the game. But I don't think it will negatively impact the in play, or it will impact Lomax's aerial attempts or running meters if he gets pulled. I think Laurie just needs to have that chat to him and say, mate. And you know, Zach admitted it. He was the reason, not the sole reason, but if he had made those kicks, then the Blues would have won. So I think Laurie's faith needs to be shown in starting him as the goal kicker, and if he has a shocker and the moment does get to him, bring on Crichton or Latrell, and they'll do the job very well. So I don't think it's a matter of that, Luca.
I think that realistically, all the players understand that in Origin, it's a bit different in that you're doing something for more than just you. You've got to be okay with those kind of sacrifices, being able to step down and say, I'd rather win the series than let my ego get the better of me and break 4 more kicks. I think that Lomax would understand that. I think the other players would understand that. I don't think that necessarily him getting replaced as kicker halfway through the game is going to have some detrimental effect on New South Wales. Maybe Lomax just in terms of his mental, but like I really think they'll still be able to perform just because this isn't club. This is like a lot bigger.
I think it'd be harder for him mentally to stay on his kicker, honestly. If he's bombed game 2, he's bombed the first half of game 3. I think that would impact him way more than being taken off as kicker, honestly. I'll leave it to you, Jack.
Yeah, I don't agree. I reckon when Lomax played that game too and he was fluffing them everywhere, we didn't see the Lomax that we know, mate. The guy didn't cross the line, didn't look threatening at all. Like, game 2, where was Zach Lomax? I don't know. So I think him kicking poorly really had an effect on his game. I think you don't give him the ball because he's messed up in game 2. You don't give Cleary the ball because the guy doesn't have his groin attached to his leg. The guy can't move either. All right? You've got to give it to Latrell. Latrell is a big-time plug. Agrees with everything Charlie's saying. Stats may not be exactly where they are. I don't have that in front of me, Luka, but I know for a fact he's big game player, and he'll just knock it over. Like, the guy has got a huge boot. And if he has Blashies behind him, he'll just rise to the next level too. And I think the goal kicking's not a concern, mate. Like, if they go Kreis, if they go Latrell, they'll both do a really good job. I wouldn't go to the other guys who have demons. I think where it's going to hit New South Wales hard is in-play kicking, right? We saw Jerome in his first particular game to get out on the full. That's not Origin. We saw Nathan Cleary play that game too and didn't kick the ball nowhere near as much as he used to in game 1 or previous Origins, right? So there's obviously something wrong with him, and he didn't play the first game in NZ after the club game when everyone else was kind of backed up. Panthers didn't play their guys, which didn't end up mattering because Penrith won. But he hasn't played that game, right? So he's taken 1 week off, and then he's gone and played the next week, hasn't kicked. It's all been everyone else kicking. So Nathan hasn't had much kicking, and a goal kicker never gives up their kicking position unless there is a big issue, right? So that tells me Nathan's playing at 60, 70%. As a Queenslander, I love to hear that. That's perfect for me. I would love nothing more than to see Nathan struggle for 80 minutes and have Papa Lee folding. Like, the guy, if you got a big boy coming at you in Origin level, you got to be able to move laterally, and you just can't. And so Luai's going to have a ton of pressure on him, kicking on fifth tackle, and there's going to be big issues. You know, everyone knows Luai's kicking. It's all going to be pressure straight at him. There's no two sides of the rough here. Like, Nathan won't be kicking that much. So there's plenty of pressure on Luai having Nathan in the team, which and those guys are running the team around the park, right? So that's my biggest weakness in New South Wales is infield kicking on fifth, and even putting pressure early on the count, like at 3 and 4, trying to swing momentum. Luai doesn't have the boot to go downfield and kick it over the hammer's head, mate. He's just too fast. So that's where I see your weakness in New South Wales.
Yeah, look, 12, 13, 15 and 16 is where Cleary, Crichton, Latrell and Lomax rank in conversions made in the NRL this year. So you could have your pick of the bunch which I don't know, like some say, is a good thing, some say is a bad thing. In the NFL, they say if you have two starting quarterbacks, you might as well have none. So, it could be a matter of like who's going to do it. But by that same time, Queensland, I think, is, you stick with Holmes. There isn't really like any threat, even if Holmes did kick poorly, of anyone really like taking that spot off him. Whereas New South Wales, the fact that Lomax might miss a few, then maybe you do switch. I'm not really sure. But look, it's a problem that they've had, so, I know you're at home, but if I'm Laurie Daly, obviously I know a lot less about NRL than you blokes, but I wouldn't be afraid of pulling the trigger, in a big game like this, because at the end of the day, sometimes in these big games, guys, it is small margins. And if it takes Lomax to miss two kicks before you put Latrell or Crichton in and you lose by 4 points or 2 points, well, then you're going to be looking at the coach and you're going to be saying, well, you knew this was going to happen. You missed those kicks in game two. Why didn't you make the decision earlier? So, if I was Laurie Daly, I wouldn't be afraid to just go and change it from the start, and give one of your other good kickers, a real chance, particularly when all I hear is how big game players these guys are, Speaking of big game players, we're going to go to the battle on the outside. This is, in my opinion, like I said, you blokes know a lot more than me, but in my opinion, I think this is where the game could be won and lost on the outside. You've got Crichton and Lomax on one side, likely going up against Val Holmes and Shibasaki on the other side. Then you got Latrell and Toto up against Toya and Coates. Guys, on paper, this feels like it's a heavyweight mismatch, just the way I look at it. And New South Wales are at home. Toya Shibasaki, we've heard all the noise about them, what they've done in their short-lived NRL careers going up against, some of the best attacking outside players in the game. Jack, what are your thoughts on this matchup? Do you think Queensland could get the better of New South Wales in this part of the field?
In terms of the matchup, mate, I think Coach has been jumping over to all series, so that's not a problem. That's where we're so much more dominant under the high ball. Tor can't get anywhere near Coach. So the only way New South Wales score on Tor's side is if Burrows in and tucks his head under and tries to duck under the boys. Queensland will have no problem. We'll be directing balls all day long to Brian Tor. It won't be an issue. We've seen it happen before. I think in terms of Toya, he's been really, really good. I think we thought there'd be big issues with him and Latrell. Like, we thought Latrell would just run over it. But he's really held his own. And we've all watched Toya from a young age, right? He's been at Nudgeon. We've all kind of grown up seeing him play. And he's always been fairly good. But I never thought we'd see him in Origin this early. And, mate, yeah, he was probably if not second best player in Origin 1. He was streaking down that right touch line. And he won't have any issues containing Latrell again, mate. Other side, Shibasaki's the unknown. Frito is like your best centre in the game. So there'll be... the good thing is, Shibasaki's marked Crichton before, and it wasn't an issue in club. Crichton wasn't very big in that game. I went back and watched it a little bit. And we're looking at the other wing with Val and Lomax. I think it's fairly good. Those two guys are very physical, very fast, athletic. They can both jump. Lomax is very, very good jumper. I think those two kind of level each other out. So I think on paper, these guys are superstars. New South Wales guys are superstars. But you put these Queensland guys in the jersey and you let them go out there and play like we've seen the first two games. Bar Shibasaki. They've held their own, mate, and they've even been a little bit dominant. We saw Coast be dominant, and we didn't notice Latrell in game one, thanks to Toya. So I wouldn't be too concerned there.
I think something to note is that, New South Wales have had a history of playing fullbacks at centre. Obviously, that has paid off with Latrell because he came through as a centre when he debuted for the Roosters. But when we've had Tom Trbojevic play centre, you really see him play as a second fullback where he swings around the other side and creates that extra overlap. I can't see Latrell doing that. I don't see that work rate in him. If he does do it, I could see him doing it maybe once or twice during the game. And if he comes around with Crichton and Lomax possibly on that left edge, or whoever's that winger. Them attacking Shibasaki with Latrell, and then Latrell feeding Crichton early to Latrell holding that inside defenders up, feeding Crichton outside, giving him that mismatch with Shibasaki. Although he is a terrific defending center, I don't think there's anyone better on offense in one-on-one than Stephen Crichton. So I could see him getting out a big fend, um, and finding the winger. But yeah, I think it comes down to, is Latrell going to work? Is he going to have that work rate to go to the other side and then be able to work back? I doubt it, but if it does, I think it will work really well.
I think you're right. I think, in my opinion, I reckon To'o's possibly the most lethal, uh, and who I'd be worried about the most. Our defense just doesn't reach. It doesn't get out far enough, and he's pretty quick off the ball too. They run that play 20 times a game, just kicking it out, try and bring us all in. And I think that we've been doing a pretty all right job at defending it. But, I mean, To'o going over and then going over again on the exact same play, like, I think that's where we would see the most damage from New South Wales.
All of when To'o scores two tries, they're almost identical. Hey, they are the exact same tries back to back, and it's the same way that New South Wales or Penrith has exploited that defense prior. So
Mm.
yeah, I completely agree with you, Jamie. To'o could be a go for double, and in a very similar way.
We saw like Lomax not get any pill at all, and then we saw To'o get all the pill. Like literally, it was predictable. We saw every single fourth, fifth tackle, the ball was going to that edge with Crichton and Brian, right? So, I mean, the good thing is Queensland can kind of see that coming. But yeah, Jamie, you're right, mate. Like as soon as Bizza gets that ball and he's inside, 5 meters of the line, he's scoring. There's no two ways about it. But it's just going to take a gritty performance from coaching to get that big 6'6" body down and try and lock horns with him. But mate, yeah, once you get tall in that small refined space, he's going over.
I think Lomax's biggest threat is in the air, and the fact
Yeah.
that our right side half could not kick to him. That was the limiting factor for him. Obviously, we're going to have that again this game. So I don't know if Zach Lomax is going to have to find a way into the game where he can cross the line as opposed to his aerial threats. Um, but yeah, if we keep going to To'o, he can score those doubles, but there's only so many more times until Queensland are just going to fold that defense and choke them and put them back into the touchline.
And I think
Um,
that's exactly what we saw after he did score that double. He went over, goes over again, and then that's when you see the shift. We kind of change the way we're defending. And I think that then the problem was really Ponga not being there, not being
Yeah.
able to kind of shift. And I think that's why I'm pretty happy with Hammer going to fullback, because I think he'll be able to kind of, like you said, have that versatility, be able to make that shift. And if To'o's still exploiting that side, and we do shift the defense down, make sure we cover the other gaps as well.
and
And
Hammer's super competitive in the air as well.
yeah, the
Like,
crazy about all that is that if we figured this out as a bunch of like we're fun, like we love the NRL and whatever, but we're not coaches. If we figured it out, Billy Slater's figured it out. That side's gonna be stacked, and if Cleary's got the same issue that he can't kick to Lomax all game, doesn't that pose a big limitation on New South Wales attack? Like that just makes it so much more predictable, like we saw in game 2.
I think what's really alarming is that, our one back per se on the bench, Connor Watson, he's played fullback, he's played half, he's played 13, he's played in the row, he's played center when he was at the Chooks. He's played just about everywhere, but he's not necessarily a kicker. And our 18th man last game was Matt Burton, who is a great in-play kicker. So leaving Burton out, including Kiraz, not having a dedicated uh playmaker slash kicker off the bench, we're just leaving it all on Luai, who he kicked shockingly in game two. So I think that's the main concerning part, and why I was really excited when I saw Katoa in camp. Um, but man, I have my certain feelings about Laurie because he led us to that shocking run when I was younger. Um, but maybe he's seen Nathan kick well or something, that he's had that bit of time off for Penrith. He hasn't had that kicking load. I would love to see Nathan put up some nice crossfield kicks for Lomax, but yeah, I would like to see Katoa possibly coming into the bench slash extended squad next year.
Yeah. I mean, Nathan's just a generational talent. Like, this guy will probably be an immortal, right? So we're not taking anything away from him. It's just the fact that the guy's injured. So
Yeah,
you got to
exactly.
play your fit guy. I think that's just the way Origin works. You can't try and play it on one leg. It's just too much of a big game. Like, you just can't do it.
Yeah,
Mm.
listen, I agree. I think Katoa's definitely, I think, there for the future. Um, but it is good that he's in camp, sort of taking it all in, seeing what it is like, when it comes to Origin. But guys, listen, we're going to get down to it now. I'm very, very keen. I have a rough idea of where you're going, but I want to sort of wonder how you see this game playing out. Jack, I'll start with you, then Jamie, then Charlie. Excuse me. Then Charlie. Jack, your official game predictions for this game plus your player of the match. How do you see this one playing out?
Mate, I've got Queensland winning in a close one, 18 to 16, seeing whoever kicked for New South Wales, doesn't matter to us, missing the crucial one to tie it up at 18 all. I've got Cam Munster as Wally Lewis medal winner. He's going to do great things leading from the front, mate. He's got the world behind him besides those Blasties. And yeah, I think Queensland win Munster will be terrific. I think he'll go down as a legend for Queensland. Has never lost a decider, mate. Like, I think he's ready, prime, ready to go. So, I think the track down in Sydney is going to be reasonably fast, a lot faster than what we saw in WA. Like, it's been raining in Sydney up until yesterday, so it's all dry for now. So we're going to see fast footy. Kicking is going to be very, very important. And I think New South Wales, unfortunately, just doesn't have the kicking prowess that Queensland has with your Dearden on one side and your Munster on the other. It's just too damaging. So, mate, it'll be really close. And I think what we've failed to mention is the forwards. I think, obviously, back's going to determine how much you win a game by, but the forwards determine who wins it. And I think Big Papa through the middle is going to be so damaging. I think Tino's going to lift because of it. I just don't know about starting Capel and Liero. Like, I don't like that very much. I think you need to start Nane, who was our best player in game one, and Carrigan needs to start for me. But anyway, Billy stuck with the team that got the job done in game two. So I guess if it's not broken, you don't fix it. Hard to say when we had 18 points put off in the second half, but those boys will come in and they'll bring some good NO for the I don't know, end of the first half. I guess those boys will come on. So yeah, no, Queensland win, mate. That's what I've got. In terms of predictions for betting, I don't know if you want me to go into any of that.
We'll get into that after everyone gives their predictions. Jamie, what do you got?
Oh, I think it's going to look a lot like last year. I think it's going to be extremely close. I did love Game 3 last year. Scoreless for so long, 60 minutes. Or no tries for 60 minutes. I think it's going to look a lot like that. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be 13-12 Queensland Golden Point. I think
Wow, what a call!
Big
I
call.
think it'll be an amazing game to watch, and I think that I'm excited for Wednesday. In terms of player of the match, I think Munster is probably like the obvious choice for me. But if it wasn't him, I could see Xavier Coates going over both times and clinching that.
Chico?
I reckon New South Wales 18-10. And call me a blind sheep if you want. but I can see it being 16-10 for a fair margin of the second half to the Blues, and then securing a penalty goal to just put them in front by that converted try plus the 2 penalty points. Um, you know, the man of the match. I I really want to pick a Blues player. There's just I cannot think of one that's standing out. With Cleary not having his running game or kicking game. Presuming that his groin is still no good. Um, I think if I had to pick someone, it would have to be Payne Haas or Latrell. If Latrell really stands up. But I could honestly see Munster winning the medal in a losing side, and that is a really big call. But it's been seen before in grand finals where the Clive Churchill medal has been won in a losing team. Um, it's very rare, but I feel like with Munster's performance that I think he is going to have, I could see it happening.
Yeah, listen, look, like obviously, as the host, it's my job to be objective. However, I will put on the record that I am a Queensland supporter through and through. Look, I'm honestly, guys, if I'm being completely honest, I'm actually a little bit worried. Um, I think there is a real possibility that Queensland could get the roof blown off of them in this game. Like, as much as I hate to admit that as a Queensland supporter, I think there is a very, realistic chance of that happening. And everyone loves a close game and a decider, but there's a big part of me that feels like this could not be a close game. It's actually interesting because, I am one to sort of look at the betting odds and I like to sort of use that to just get a gauge of what the bookies are thinking and what other people are thinking. New South Wales are actually slightly favoured if they do win to win by 13 plus as opposed to winning from a 1 to 12 margin. Now the odds are close. It's $2.30 in favour of 13 plus and it's $2.50 from 1 to 12. But I think that is something that's worth taking note of, if I'm being completely honest with you. And so I love the close game predictions, but I think there's a real chance that, New South Wales do find a way to just blow the roof off this game. They're in Sydney, they got the home crowd. Laurie Daly, I think's made a statement by keeping the same team out there. I think he said that the reason I asked you guys if you thought the Queensland win was a fluke is because I think Laurie Daly thinks that first half was a fluke. New South Wales have been better 3 out of the 4 halves they've played. And I think that's pretty undisputable, to be honest with you. So I'm really nervous as a Queensland fan, but at the same time, gotta go with my Maroons. Gotta go with my Maroons, fellas. I'm taking 20-16 in favour of the Maroons. As much as I think there's a possibility they could get their asses kicked, I'm not one to shy away from my Queenslanders. I'm 2016. I think it might be a bit higher scoring than some of you folks are given credit for. It's supposed to be good conditions down in Sydney, But listen, I'm rooting for my Queenslanders, but there's that small little voice in the back of my head that's thinking this New South Wales team, if they perform to how they look on paper, and if I'm being honest, if both teams perform at their best ability, I don't think Queensland can win. I think when you look at the players they have, I think that New South Wales are the far better team. But I think Munster magic could be in store. I really think there's something about, this Queensland team with the whole thing with Munster. That is just something that sometimes can just possess players and possess teams. And, we love sports because of its unpredictability and, we never really know what's going to happen and special things happen. And that's something that I think could really have a big impact on this game, if I'm being completely honest with you. So, yeah, look, 3 Queenslanders to 1 New South Wales. I'm not surprised, that is sort of, if you can't tell by everyone's shirts, I tried to remain neutral as the host, but, in my heart
I think Navy's a shade of blue, mate.
in my heart of heart, I am a Queenslander. But listen, guys, we are going to get into some betting talk to end the segment. This segment, I like to call priceless punting. We'll continue with the three of us, Jack and Charlie, for the betting segment. Charlie, you have a couple of bets that you've cooked up for the viewers that you think are going to hit. Would you mind sort of taking us through those and how you think this game could play out from that perspective?
So obviously, if you're a Queenslander listening to this, you're probably not going to like this bet. This is the multi. I've scoured Sportsbet, and this is the multi that I personally would be putting on. So New South Wales head to head and be up by 1-4 at half, and then win 1-12. Anytime try scorer Stephen Crichton and Val Holmes to score 4+ points. So. I'm predicting the Blues to have a lead at half, a small lead, and hold that into full time. Anytime try scorer Stephen Crichton, as I said before, I believe he's the big time player in this game. Loves to score a try on the big stage, as we've seen when he was at the Panthers. And I think you'd be stupid not to put Val Holmes on 4/6+ points, maybe, with his conversions the past couple games, especially moving him to the wing. That ups his chances of scoring, which is four points.
The one thing I will say, if I'm being honest with the Val Holmes thing, is, in that line of thinking that Queensland could just absolutely get blown out, I think there's going to be very limited opportunities for Val Holmes to score points. And we saw in game one, I reckon Cleary to score 6 points, even 4 points was probably one of the most put on bets in the entire of that game. And we saw something like that just flop so easily. So I look at a game like this and I feel like points scored is one of those things where, in theory, it's one of those things that really, should be hitting, because they're kicking a lot and then you got the bonus of Val Holmes on the wing scoring tries. But I have a little bit of cause to pause with that, just because I think there's a chance that, we could see something similar to game one from Cleary, from New South Wales. But I don't hate those overall. Jack, what are your ones?
I've got Queensland win, and then I've got them by 2, setting my own line. Unfortunately, I'm saying g'day to you boys from Las Vegas, so I don't actually have access to Sportsbet. I've got a source from Priceless himself that tells me that's about $3.50 or something like that for that 2-point margin for Queensland win, and then I've got match points under 42.5. I've got first. I'm not going to do a first-time try scorer. I just don't back that at all. It's just pure luck. I've got Holmes to go 6+ points. I've got Big Puppet across. Now listen, boys. It's a bit
$13, Jack, by the way, just quietly.
$13.
That's
$13 for Big Pup to cross.
He's scored 3 tries in his Origin career, all being in deciders.
Wow, that's a stat.
Then again, mate, I'm not backing that statistic. I'm
That's a
sorry.
stat.
No, it is. Look it up. It's true.
I know, but I don't think you can rely on statistics there, mate.
No, I'm just going how I feel, mate. The guy scores so many tries. So many tries.
Maybe we would recommend the punters not to put on this multi.
No, I think
if you're going with how the heart feels.
Because listen to how much money this is going to rack up in a second. And then I've got Munster to score a try. In total, that's paying over $200.
Yeah, $201 multi, guys. If anyone's feeling lucky, like Jack is.
If you want to lose your money, put that on.
Obviously, you can take out whatever you want, punters. But let me just say that I had a 5-leg multi on for game 2. I turned $20 into 500, so I'm on a hot streak.
Yeah, listen, Jack, I don't know. Sometimes funny things happen in game 3, and if I had a 10 or a 20 to put on, I don't know if, Big Pap to cross is exactly where I would be rushing to put that stake on, considering he hasn't played in a few years. But look, you could be the one laughing, in this game if he does cross. I think you might be maybe the only person in the NRL media space that might be confident in Big Pap scoring a try, especially considering he's paying $13 just to get across the line. But my predictions, guys, look, a bit of both, actually. I didn't really know. I knew a bit about yours, Jack, so I had to help you with the odds. But, Charlie, I didn't know what you were going to cook up. Look, I got 3 single legs. Obviously, you can put these legs into a multi. First one, Charlie, same as you. It's Crichton, anytime try scorer. paying 295. I think he scored one last game. We hear about how much of a big time player he is. I'm expecting to see that. Especially, I think he's going to be up against Shibasaki, and I think that he's really going to look to exploit that matchup. And I would be shocked if he couldn't cross the try line once in this game with that matchup, with Shibasaki being in his first game. And Holmes is going to stay on that left side too. We saw he got caught out in game one, which led to a few New South Wales tries. So I really like Crichton to score. Jack, one of yours as well, actually. Total points under 42.5. I think we see most deciders, except for when they're blowouts, which, I think this could be a blowout, so there's a chance this goes over. But I think, there's a good chance it'll be a close game. And if it's a close game, I think it'll be a relatively low-scoring game. I'd be really shocked if we see any wild score lines like 30-28 or, even like 26-24. Like, I don't really anticipate any of those big higher range score lines resulting in a close game. If this line were to go over, I would anticipate it more being something like, like 32-10. That wouldn't even go over, like 34-12 or something like that, to get it over the 42.5. I think that's good value at $1.90. The other bet that I put on, this has happened in the first two games, I anticipate this would happen again at home, is New South Wales to score first points in the game, paying $1.58. I put this bet on actually myself in the last game, was paying $1.66. Pretty easy money. You get that paid out hopefully in the first 2 minutes of the game. 60% on your money and you don't have to worry about it again. Last thing, guys, before we go on, and this is something I wanted to talk about earlier before we got into the predictions, but, there's never a big game without an X factor. And Jack, you're Queensland, Charlie, you're New South Wales. I'm not sure if you've had too much time to think about this, but Charlie, I'll ask you first about your potential X factor for the Blues. Who you think, maybe someone that's played well in the past or hasn't played that well in this series, someone that you think that a lot of people might be overlooking that could sort of turn this game on its head potentially.
Look, I really want to say Latrell, and if Latrell has a big game, I think we're going to win. But I'll have to go with Mr. Consistent. He always plays well, always plays consistent. I just can't look past Stephen Crichton, especially coming up on Shibasaki. So Stephen Crichton's going to be my X factor.
JD?
My one, yeah. So it's hard to go past Munster, but I'm gonna just call out the Queensland spine here. So Hammer, his speed around the ruck is going to be devastating in the last 20-30. I think he's really important for Queensland to be successful. I think Harry Grant is where it all starts. He's like the nucleus of our team. So once he comes back on and Kurt Mann gets off, if he's not sparking that middle rucking area, we're going to have real big issues. I think we can win the game. Harry Grant is going to be the one who can kind of break the game open, scooting from dummy half, and Dearden is the guy who's going to steer us around all day. Munster's going to come in and he's going to bounce around and he's going to break the line. But Dearden's our structure. He's like our general. So we need him to just play his normal, consistent game, let Munster do the crazies, let Hammer benefit off Harry Grant and Munster's breaking the line, and I think that's the way we win. And I think, that's fine as our X factor.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at Dearden as well. I think he had a great game 2 performance. I think when you look at, I think Billy's taken a fair bit of risk putting him in that starting 7 spot. And I think when you've seen the Queensland halves of old and how big they've come up in games like this, I think he's someone that I'm looking at to have a big game. It's easy to do it on a neutral site, when you go to Perth, but can you go to Sydney, where they will be hungry, where they will be looking to come after you? Can you perform, when the moment's the biggest? And another person that I'm actually looking at, someone that although he stayed in the team, I've actually thought he could have played a bit better, is Rob Toyer. Considering the lack of NRL games he's played, I think Billy's shown a lot of faith in him, keeping him in the squad. I think, no one, would have been surprised if he had have been dropped for this game. I think, so I look at Rob Toyer and I want to see him score a try. I think I want to see him get across the line. You know, he's played only a few NRL games, but he's someone that, you know, I think there was a lot of intrigue coming into the series. You know, we all saw the stat up there, you know, least amount of NRL games played before making your Origin debut. He was near the top of that stat, you know, and I think that he's someone that no one's really talking about at all. We saw in his first NRL game of the year, you know, he put on an absolute masterclass, although being a loss, he was there. And I feel like that, in a way, sort of put him in the spotlight. And I think that a lot of people still don't really know much about him. I think he's someone that potentially, I think, could have a really big game. You know, he plays for the Roosters. You know, Sydney, this stadium's not going to be unfamiliar to him. You know, he's played in this stadium many of times. So I think it's somewhere where he feels comfortable. He's going to have a big task ahead of him, you know, with Latrell, you know, standing right across from him. He's someone that I look to have a big game. Give me Rob Toyer as my X factor for the Origin series. I'm just saying.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Look, the young fella's gotta give us something. I think, you know, and for all we know, we're talking about, you know, Katoa being there for New South Wales in the future. Like, Toya's obviously got the nod now. He could be someone that we're looking at as our future for many, many years to come. And, you know, this could be a coming out party for him. I certainly hope it is. I think he could be a huge key to a Queensland victory, because when you're an underdog like Queensland are, sometimes you need someone who's not expected to come up and play big. You need that someone out of nowhere who just says, watch this, and they come and take home the goods. So that's who I like as my X Factor, guys. Boys, look, any final words before we head off? You know, 2 days till the game still. You know, we still got a lot of days left. Any final words, Charlie, before we head off today?
Oh, look, mate, I'm just going to say I'm very proud to be, you know, true blue, and yeah, it hurts me every time my brother says he's a Queenslander. So I would love to see nothing more than to see the Blues get up in game three, and I can rub it in his face, and I can say, watch out for the next 7 years because we got Katoa coming through, mate.
Jen, any final words?
Um, no, I think we're in for an absolute draw. I think it's going to be an Origin game for all time. Yeah, I'm just pumped. I reckon Ty needs to quieten down because we know what team he was playing for. I don't think there's any secrets with that. Luka will happily link the eligibility criteria. I'll tick the box.
Yeah. Guys, listen, it is going to be a great game. I hope it's a great game. You know, everyone loves a do or die. Everyone loves a decider. So, you know, especially when they're close, this is sort of what we live for in sports. You know, State of Origin only happens once a year, you know, 3 games a year. So, you know, we want it to be a good game. But, guys, that is all for Priceless Takes, episode 83, State of Origin special. Jack, Charlie, thank you for joining me on this episode. Really appreciated your insight. And this definitely will not be the last time we'll be talking footy on this show.
Thank you for having us, Mr. Priceless Takes.
Anytime, fellas. Anytime, fellas. Listen, make sure to always follow us on our Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. Links in the description are in the handle below. Make sure to give us a follow. Always posting content, shorts in the episode, you know, and just general fun, entertaining sports media things. Once again, guys, make sure we're going to be back. We'll be back post State of Origin Game 3, and then we're going to continue with some NRL talk as we head into the back half of the NRL season. You know, we'll get into a bit of fantasy talk. For those of you that don't know, myself, you know, the NRL, you know, guy who doesn't know much about it, is actually giving these two Dwyer boys a fair bit of run for their money in the NRL fantasy comp. So we might have to see how that comes in the coming weeks because,
You're lucky the Origin time's over, mate. You're lucky. My team's... I had 4 players play last week against Luka. I was absolutely stitched up. I didn't even change my captain.
Yeah, I saw that, mate. We don't talk
All
about
my advice.
we like talking about fantasy. We don't talk about the tipping.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
But guys, thank you all for tuning in to Priceless Takes. Let's go Maroons. I am your host, Luka Price, and we will see you next time.